Welcome to Truth Report, the show that pulls back the curtain on the hidden forces shaping our world. Tonight, we expose the escalating energy crisis, not as a series of isolated incidents, but as a carefully orchestrated dance of power, profit, and geopolitical maneuvering.
From the shifting sands of the Middle East to the boardrooms driving the electric revolution, we're witnessing a seismic rearrangement of global energy supply chains. Who benefits, who loses, and what are the true costs beyond the headlines?
We'll uncover how distant conflicts directly impact your gas tank and electricity bill, revealing the profound vulnerabilities in our energy infrastructure that powerful players are exploiting right now.
We'll connect the dots between China's strategic recalculations, Indonesia's pivot to U.S. oil, and the quiet suspension of gas production in Qatar, painting a picture of a world on the brink of a new energy order.
And we'll ask what profound blind spots prevent us from seeing these monumental shifts clearly, and what it truly takes to power a future that serves all, not just a select few. Stay with us.
Our first report takes us to Beijing, where China's annual two-sessions legislative meetings are underway. While the domestic agenda typically dominates, observers suggest that the escalating crisis in the Middle East, particularly involving Iran, is casting a long shadow over foreign policy discussions.
According to the South China Morning Post, the Iran crisis is unlikely to fully dominate the agenda, but it's certainly a significant feature, prompting what analysts describe as a broader rethink in Beijing's policy toward the Middle East.
This rethink is crucial. China, a major energy importer and a significant investor in the region through its Belt and Road Initiative, finds its economic and strategic interests directly threatened by regional instability. Beijing's historical non-interventionist stance is clashing with its expanding global footprint.
Exactly, Maya. For years, China has navigated the Middle East by focusing on economic ties, avoiding the entanglement of political disputes. But with vital oil supplies from Iran and other Gulf states, plus massive infrastructure projects at risk, that luxury is rapidly diminishing. Their expanding overseas interests demand protection.
This isn't merely about diplomacy, it's about securing China's economic lifelines. Any disruption to oil flows, especially from a major supplier like Iran, would have profound implications for China's industrial engine and national stability. The political advisory body will undoubtedly be weighing these very real economic threats.
And consider the bigger picture. A more assertive China in the Middle East could fundamentally alter the geopolitical balance. While the U.S. has traditionally been the region's primary security guarantor, Beijing's reassessment could signal a new era of competition for influence, driven by energy security.
Who benefits from this rethink? China, if it can successfully protect its energy and trade routes without being drawn into direct conflict. A stable, accessible Middle East, even under increasing Chinese influence, serves Beijing's long-term growth ambitions.
But the losers could be existing power structures. If China decides to take a more proactive security role, perhaps through naval presence or enhanced diplomatic muscle, it directly challenges the established order. Iran itself remains in a precarious position, its oil sales crucial to its economy but constantly under threat.
This shift underscores how critical energy resources are not just commodities, but instruments of national power. China's move to safeguard its interests reflects a broader global scramble for energy security, where economic might is increasingly translated into geopolitical influence.
Our next story highlights a significant shift in global oil trade, directly influenced by the Middle East's turmoil. Middle East Eye reports that Indonesia is set to boost its crude oil imports from the United States, a direct consequence of what the publication refers to as the Israel-US war in the Middle East.
This is a stark illustration of how regional conflict has global ripple effects, redirecting established trade routes and strengthening new alliances. Indonesia, a major Southeast Asian economy, is clearly prioritizing supply stability over traditional sourcing, reflecting acute anxiety over Middle Eastern oil flows.
The phrasing, Israel-US war in Middle East, from the Middle East Eye is provocative and loaded, Maya. It frames the conflict not just as a regional flare-up but as an entanglement with direct U.S. involvement, portraying a heightened state of instability that forces nations like Indonesia to seek alternatives.
This pivot to the U.S. is a strategic win for Washington. It solidifies America's role as a global energy superpower, leveraging its vast shale oil production to exert influence and provide stability to allies and partners. The U.S. benefits from increased exports and a strengthened diplomatic hand in Asia.
But at what cost to Indonesia? While securing supply is paramount, shifting away from geographically closer Middle Eastern sources to the U.S. could mean higher transportation costs. Is this purely an economic decision, or does it carry implicit political expectations from Washington?
That's the core question, Alex. Energy security often comes with geopolitical strings attached. For Indonesia, it means potentially deeper alignment with U.S. foreign policy objectives and a move away from non-aligned positioning, which could complicate its relationships with other global powers.
Who benefits, then? The US certainly does, gaining market share and strategic leverage. Indonesian consumers and industries might benefit from more reliable, albeit potentially more expensive, oil supplies. But Middle Eastern producers lose market share, intensifying economic pressures in an already volatile region.
This realignment also exposes the fragility of the existing global energy architecture. When a perceived conflict can instantly reroute supply, it reveals how vulnerable nations are to geopolitical shocks. It's a stark reminder that energy dependence is a major national security concern.
It's a clear example of how economic security is increasingly intertwined with military and diplomatic power. The US uses its energy surplus as a tool of foreign policy, shaping global alliances and supply chains to its advantage amidst perceived global instability.
Continuing our examination of Middle East instability, Middle East Eye also reports that QatarEnergy has suspended additional industrial output following undisclosed attacks on facilities. This development, while brief in its reporting, carries enormous implications for global energy markets.
Attacks on facilities is a vague but deeply troubling phrase, Maya. It immediately raises questions: who are the perpetrators? What kind of facilities were hit? And crucially, what does this mean for Qatar, a global powerhouse in liquefied natural gas, and for the nations that depend on its exports?
Indeed. Qatar is a critical supplier of LNG, particularly to Europe and Asia, which have been scrambling to diversify their gas sources away from Russia. Any disruption to Qatari production sends shockwaves through these markets, potentially driving up prices and creating energy shortages.
This directly impacts energy security on a global scale. European nations, still reeling from the energy crisis following the conflict in Ukraine, are especially vulnerable. A reduction in Qatari supply could force them to seek more expensive or less reliable alternatives, undermining their economic recovery.
Who benefits from these attacks, or at least from the resulting market instability? Certainly, other gas-producing nations like the US, which could see increased demand and higher prices for their own LNG exports. This further underscores the weaponization of energy in geopolitical conflicts.
And who loses? Qatar, of course, faces economic losses and the security challenge of protecting its vital infrastructure. But the true losers are the global consumers, who will bear the brunt of higher energy prices, impacting everything from manufacturing costs to household heating bills.
This incident highlights the extreme vulnerability of critical energy infrastructure to regional conflicts. It suggests that strategic targets are increasingly being used to exert pressure and create economic distress far beyond the immediate battlegrounds.
It's not just about a temporary halt, it's about the erosion of confidence in supply reliability. Nations dependent on Qatari gas will now be forced to reassess their supply chain resilience, potentially investing more in domestic production or even accelerating transitions to renewables, however costly.
This further solidifies the emerging pattern. Instability in key producing regions leads to market shifts, benefiting some global players while severely impacting the global consumer and the stability of the entire energy system. The cost of geopolitical friction is always paid by ordinary citizens.
Shifting gears, we now turn to the future of energy, specifically the drive towards battery electric vehicles. IEEE Spectrum features an article on optimizing BEV thermal management systems, a technical yet profoundly important aspect of the electric revolution.
This technical deep dive explores how engineers are using advanced simulation tools, like Simulink and Simscape, to refine and optimize crucial components within a BEV, from the electric powertrain to the refrigerant and coolant cycles, and even the passenger cabin.
While it sounds like a purely engineering challenge, the implications are enormous for the mainstream adoption of EVs. Effective thermal management directly impacts battery life, charging speed, range, and crucially, vehicle safety. It's the silent battleground for EV performance.
Indeed. Poor thermal management can lead to faster battery degradation, reducing the lifespan and resale value of an EV. It can also cause performance limitations in extreme temperatures, creating range anxiety for drivers and hindering the widespread appeal of electric cars.
So, optimizing these systems isn't just about efficiency, it's about making EVs more reliable, affordable, and practical for the average consumer. This technological innovation is a cornerstone of the energy transition, directly challenging the dominance of fossil fuels.
Who benefits from these advancements? EV manufacturers, who can deliver superior, more competitive products. Consumers, who get better vehicles with longer range and faster charging. And ultimately, the planet, through reduced emissions and a cleaner energy future.
But who stands to lose? The incumbent fossil fuel industry, whose market share is steadily eroded by every improvement in EV technology. And traditional auto manufacturers who fail to adapt quickly enough to these complex engineering demands will be left behind.
This story highlights the immense investment in research and development that underpins the energy transition. It's a testament to how technological breakthroughs, even in seemingly mundane areas like thermal management, are pivotal in reshaping our entire energy landscape.
It's a race against time and against established interests. The power structures are shifting from those who control resource extraction to those who master advanced manufacturing and software integration, creating a new generation of energy giants.
Our final story takes an unexpected turn, yet one that speaks to a critical human dimension often overlooked in discussions of energy and power. Nature magazine presents an audio long read exploring aphantasia, a condition where individuals lack the ability to form mental images.
On the surface, this might seem entirely unrelated to energy, Maya. But in the context of our report tonight, it begs a crucial question: what if entire societies, or even our leaders, suffer from a kind of collective aphantasia when it comes to visualizing the true consequences of our energy policies?
Aphantasia, as Nature describes, offers brain scientists a unique window into consciousness. But it also serves as a powerful metaphor for the profound blind spots we face when trying to comprehend the complex, often abstract, and long-term implications of our global energy choices.
We're talking about a lack of mental imagery for future risks, the inability to truly see climate change, resource depletion, or the human cost of geopolitical energy battles until they're upon us. This cognitive limitation can be exploited by those who profit from the status quo.
Corporate interests and political elites often rely on this societal aphantasia to push short-term gains over sustainable futures. If we cannot collectively visualize a world without fossil fuels, or a world devastated by unchecked consumption, then meaningful change becomes incredibly difficult.
Who benefits from this collective inability to truly visualize the future? Industries resistant to change, governments avoiding tough decisions, and those who profit from the current unsustainable energy paradigm. They thrive on our lack of foresight.
And who loses? All of us, particularly future generations, who inherit the very real consequences of decisions made by those with a metaphorical aphantasia towards long-term energy planning. It's a profound failure of imagination with devastating real-world impacts.
This seemingly abstract neurological condition, when viewed through the lens of investigative journalism, exposes a fundamental vulnerability in our collective decision-making processes. It highlights how psychological factors can be just as critical as economic or political ones in shaping our energy future.
Ultimately, true energy security and sustainability require not just technological innovation or geopolitical maneuvering, but a radical shift in our collective ability to imagine and visualize a different, more equitable, and resilient future. Without that mental imagery, we remain trapped.
What we've uncovered tonight is not a series of disconnected events, but a clear, stark pattern. The geopolitical chessboard is being reshuffled, with energy as the primary currency and weapon. From China's strategic recalculations to Indonesia's pivot, global power structures are reacting to, and exploiting, regional instability.
The Middle East, once again, is at the epicenter. Attacks leading to production halts in Qatar, and the Israel-US war context cited for Indonesia's shift, reveal a region where conflict directly translates into global market volatility. This instability is a catalyst for new alliances and supply chains.
And while the old energy guard grapples with these disruptions, a parallel narrative is unfolding: the relentless march of clean energy technology. The optimization of EV thermal management systems, though technical, represents the quiet, foundational work that will eventually undermine the fossil fuel economy.
Yet, the most insidious pattern might be our collective blind spot. The Nature article on aphantasia serves as a powerful metaphor for our societal inability to truly visualize the long-term consequences of these energy shifts: the environmental decay, the resource wars, the unequal distribution of energy benefits.
Those who profit from the current system, whether through geopolitical leverage or market manipulation, rely on this lack of foresight. They thrive when we cannot connect the dots between distant conflicts, corporate decisions, and their direct impact on our lives and the planet.
The deeper implication is a global energy landscape in flux, driven by both conflict and innovation. It's a struggle between entrenched power structures desperately clinging to fossil fuel dominance, and the disruptive forces of renewables and geopolitical realignment. The stakes couldn't be higher.
The Truth Report tonight reveals that the energy crisis is not just about oil prices or gas shortages, it's about power. It's about who controls the flow, who profits from the chaos, and who ultimately shapes the future of our world.
We must demand transparency from our leaders and accountability from corporations. We must push for policies that prioritize long-term sustainability and equitable access to energy, rather than short-term gains fueled by conflict.
The choice is clear: do we succumb to collective aphantasia, or do we awaken our collective imagination to visualize and build a truly resilient and just energy future? The power to see, and to act, is in our hands.
For Alex Truth, I'm Maya Clarity. Thank you for joining us on Truth Report. We'll continue to watch, investigate, and report on the truth you need to know. Good night.